Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and welcome to the show this May 25th, 2017. Another Thursday evening, and got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be starting off here in just a few moments with another great round of Coach's Corner with very special guest panelists joining the group tonight, and we'll tell you a little bit about all of them here in just a moment. And then I'm going to be joined a little bit later on by three great golf professionals, Jon Dunigan, Chuck Evans, and Tom Stickney are going to be joining me on the second half of the show tonight, so I hope you'll stick around for that as well. But let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, and for those of you that are on the East Coast, that would be 7 to 9 Eastern, and for those of you over on the other coast, it's 4 to 6, of course, Pacific time. But thank you for joining, and best way to find me is go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or just type Golf Talk Live up in the search key, and that will take you to the show. Or you can also listen in to the show through iTunes or Stitcher.com. If you just go to either iTunes.com or Stitcher.com and just type under the podcast section Golf Talk Live, that will also take you there as well. And for some reason, if you can't join us during the live broadcast, not to worry. Just visit any of those links and just scroll down to the on-demand section, and you'll be able to listen to the pre-recorded shows when it's convenient for you. But for those of you joining us live tonight, thank you very much as always. Always appreciate your followship, if you will, for listening to the show each and every week. If you want to call in or speak to any of the guests during the live broadcast, we would love to hear from you. You can do so by calling area code 646-716-4667. Or as always, you can email me personally at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And of course, each and every week I update on social media, as the guys coming on here in just a moment will attest to, on Facebook and of course Twitter. My Twitter handle is Ted and Buck CEO, and that's CEO in capital letters. And I want to thank all of the recent followers on Twitter. Thank you very much for doing so. And also I go to LinkedIn.com and post it through there as well. So virtually all of the main social media outlets, you can find a link to the show. But again, thank you for joining us this Thursday evening. As I mentioned, we've got a great Coach's Corner. We're going to be talking about part 2, or topic 2 tonight, on really covering under the fitness side of golf a little bit with a very special guest panelist, Brett Cohen. But let me introduce the guys, and I'll bring them all on, and we'll get right down to our discussion. First up, of course, is Clint Wright. He's been on the show many, many times. He's a 30-year member of the PGA, partner at TGM Golf, and a big proponent of the R3 approach. In my opinion, one of the best covering the short game today. And I can honestly say he's one of my favorite, well, we'll see after the end of the show. I don't know, that may change. But one of my favorite guests and panelists here on Coach's Corner. Also joining again for the second time on the panel, but not the second time, of course, on the show, is Jon Decker. He's the author of the book Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. He's also a motivational speaker for Celebrate Sports Tour Foundation, and he was the former director of instruction for the New Albany Country Club up in New Albany, Ohio, as well as the head instructor for Cypress Academy of Golf in Orlando, Florida. Rounding out the regular panel, if you will, is Brandon Stooksbury, who's been on many, many times as well. I haven't had him here for a little while, but glad to have him back. He's the director of instruction at the prestigious Idle Hour Club in Macon, Georgia, and has been ranked in Golf's Digest Best in State Instructor Rankings for Georgia, and was honored as the 2015 Central Georgia PGA Teacher of the Year. Specializes in competitive player development, enjoys teaching players of all levels from beginner to the tour players. He's an 11-year member of the PGA, certified in instruction, and considered to be one of Golf Digest's best young teachers, which is also known as Top 40 Under 40. Honorable mentions from everybody from U.S. Kids Top 50 5-time PGA Award winner and best-selling author of the Wedge book, and coming this fall in 17 will be the Putter book. And certainly last but not least, our special guest panelist is Brett Cohen, and founder of New York or NY Golf Fitness Guru. Brett has been involved in the fitness industry for over 17 years, specializing in working with golfers and individuals over 50, and is the only trainer in New York to hold 2 golf fitness certifications, Titleist Performance Institute and Czech Institute, as well as 2 other fitness certifications, specializing in the mature population. Thank you, guys, and that was a lot to get out, but welcome to Coach's Corner tonight at Golf Talk Live.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here as well.
Thank you, Ted.
Not a problem. I'm going to have to start editing this down because you guys are just getting too. Either that, you got to quit getting more accolades for me to add. You guys are just getting too many great things to add on your resumes. But glad to have you guys on here. As I mentioned, Brett Cohen is going to be my special guest panelist tonight. He's going to sort of initiate the conversation, and then I'll jump in with a few words here and there along the way, as well as everybody else. But Brett, why don't you start us off? And I think probably, let me just say this, on March 9th, we covered topic 1, which was what you should do to prepare for the upcoming golf season, and that was on March 9th. And we're going to talk about topic 2, which I'll let you get into. So Brett, why don't you let us know what the second topic is going to be tonight, what we're going to be covering, and just do our intro, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Today's topic is the most important piece of equipment you own, which is, of course, the body. So I just wanted to remind the audience that, unlike the other panelists, I'm the only one that does not teach the golf swing. I'm a golf fitness instructor, and that simply means that I help golfers assess and overcome the physical restrictions that prevent them from playing their best golf, and they still need good golf instruction along with that. So when it comes to improving your golf game, I think the first stop for every amateur golfer should always be their body, but for most amateurs it's not. Far too often amateur golfers think that if they just get the latest piece of equipment, maybe a new driver on the market, a gadget that measures club head speed, a GPS watch or something like that, it'll somehow dramatically improve their golf game, and of course it doesn't. I call that the shiny object syndrome. So while we know technology certainly has a place in golf and can give a golfer great feedback, and good equipment is certainly, important in improving the performance of any athlete. Oftentimes the average amateur just can't take advantage of all that technology because their body doesn't work the way it needs to play the sport the way they want to.
Well said. And tonight on Golf Talk Live, we're gonna sort of venture into some of the things that our amateurs can and should be doing to get the most out of all of this golf technology, but more importantly, how they can utilize their body and get it into peak performance so they can get out and play. And I think, Brett, and I'm sure you'll concur with this, I think a lot of people are under the misnomer when they start to hear about fitness. They start looking at some of these young guys on tour and think, well, here I'm in my late 50s or early 60s. I'm not going to be able to get in the same shape as, say, a Rory McIlroy or some of the other young guys out on tour like that. It's just not going to happen. And that's really what we're not talking about that. We're just talking about getting the best shape for you, number one, but just giving you the best opportunity to be able to make some great golf shots. And the only way you can do that is if your body's in the best shape it can be. And there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about tonight, how you can do that. And I want to bring the other guys in here as well, just for a moment. But let's talk about I think, Brett, first, let's talk about one of the most important things I think any golfer, amateur or otherwise, really should do before they enter into any sort of commitment with their golf game.
Yeah, the first thing that they should do is to find out how well their body works in relation to what is desired and required of a mechanically correct golf swing, and that's by getting a physical screen. And the screening process that I use the TPI screen along with others, but the TPI screen gives us a quick way to identify physical limitations that may be causing a golfer's swing inefficiencies. And those inefficiencies not only lead to movement compensations and, of course, swing faults, but later down the line they could lead to injury as well. which is pretty prevalent amongst amateur players. It's about 70%. So after the assessment or screen is over, then I'm able to offer, simple solutions to kind of get them back on track. And that's where the fitness part begins, with a viewing of what your body is physically capable of doing and not capable of doing.
Right. So let me just direct this to the panel, and I'm going to start, Clint, obviously with you first, because I always enjoy giving you the business. But
I hear you. That's fine.
Yeah. Now, I know that you probably personally don't do this aspect of it, but maybe you've worked with some other fitness people throughout your golf career and that have maybe helped you, or you've directed them to that. But you obviously understand the importance of being in good shape and being as healthy as we can. Do you incorporate that, or have you incorporated that throughout your career in getting your students to make sure that they're doing some sort of a fitness routine or getting a screening, if you will, to make sure and assess their limitations? You may not do it personally, but have you worked with anybody that has maybe helped you in that area to make sure your golfers are able to do some of the things that you're going to be requiring them to do out in the golf course?
Yes. I mean, for years, here recently anyway, it's become more of a thing you do. In my early teaching career, you tried to figure out on your own by working with a student to see what they could do and couldn't do. It's obviously become more sophisticated now with the TPI screening process. We have a gentleman that we work with that will do this TPI certified, that particularly with some of our senior players, we encourage them to do that for a number of reasons. Obviously, we don't want them swinging to hurt themselves, to give them some idea and give us an idea, obviously, what they're capable of doing. In most of my teaching today, we really look at it more from a stamina standpoint. Mm-hmm. That, if you're going to work on the short game a lot and really want to hone that in, that's a lot of practice time, a lot of staying bent over and standing there and making putts. And you can pretty much tell when you're working with somebody, particularly in their putting, and you're hitting, 75 to 100 putts in a time frame, you start to see them stretch their back a little bit. You can tell pretty quick whether they're, whether they're doing any stretching at home. And so we encourage them to get into just a very simple stretching program to help with that. Yeah, so we have a guy on staff, big blown out thing, but we encourage the stretching for sure.
Fantastic. Brandon, I know that you've worked with a myriad of professionals out there and beginners and obviously some of our high handicap amateurs as well. Let's take this from a little bit different angle. Obviously when you're getting some of your higher caliber players, more often than not, especially as Clint just pointed out in today's game, they're pretty fitness conscious. Would you agree?
Yes and no. I think they are aware of whether or not they are overweight or strong or weak, but not necessarily whether they are in golf fit shape, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I heard a chuckle. Obviously, somebody else has experienced the same things I have. But yeah, I would say they're certainly more aware than the average player, no doubt.
Right. Now, do you do anything specific? Do you work with somebody or you yourself? Do you? Obviously, I'm sure you encourage them to get into to some sort of a fitness routine to help improve their abilities out in the golf course. But do you have somebody on staff there where you are that you work with that can help them in that area? Because I know you're focusing more on the instruction side.
Yeah, I do. We have a fitness director at our club that handles all that. I personally myself am TPI certified, and so I've been through the process and use their screening similar to what we talked about earlier. It's different for me in a club environment because I see both sides of the spectrum. I teach my share of elite players both at the tour level, the mini tour level, the elite collegiate level. And then I teach my share of club players as well. And the conversation I think, I have to have with each of those golfers is a little bit different. For the elite player who is already or is certainly willing to get involved in the fitness, I always have to explain to them that their fitness level will set the ceiling for their success. And so their golf swing will get so good, but at the end of the day, the fitness is really what's going to keep them from getting as good as they could be at that level, because they're not afraid to practice and spend all the time in the world out on the driving range. At the club level, I have two big responsibilities. My first is to not hurt them. My
Right.
first is to not ask them to do something that will physically injure them. And the second is I have a response, and this is why I went to the TPI, to the TPI at Oceanside to get certified. I feel like I have a responsibility as an instructor to know where they stand and then be able to work around their inefficiencies. Look, here's the cold hard truth of it. If I waited on every golfer to get physically fit and healthy before they came to take a golf lesson, I'd be broke, right? And so
right.
it's always an encouragement. It's always there. It's always something I'm trying to get them to move toward. But I have a responsibility as an instructor for getting them better despite that. Now I have two choices: try to get them to move the wrong way and hurt them. Worst case, best case, they'll never be able to do it because they can't move that way. Or I can find out a little bit of information about what they can and can't do, so I know what to avoid, so I don't hurt them, and know how to work around it so that they can actually do what I need them to do in their golf swing. And so we have a guy on staff. I do all my own screening and send them to him with the full screen kind of already completed, and we over the last couple of years we've had a good working relationship.
Yeah, and well said, and I agree with both Clint and Brandon. You're exactly right. We want to make sure first and foremost that any students that we're working with, as Brett pointed out, it's good to have an assessment. Now we may not do it personally because we may not be skilled in that particular area, but it's good for them to make sure, because the last thing you want to do is get somebody out in the practice tee and get them swing, with their clubs, and if they're not in any sort of decent shape, suddenly they're walking away, or as Clint pointed, doing 75, 100 putts in a session, and the poor guy can't get into his car or back into the golf cart because he can't bend over anymore, or he can't stand up, one of the two, because he's been crouched over in his posture. John, I want to bring in here. I know that you're not doing as much, of the teaching side of things at this point. John, of course, has been traveling around on a book tour here recently, and so I know that he's not doing as much. But John, I know that you've been, teaching golf over the years for a long, long time, and I'm sure you've seen all shapes and sizes, come to you for lessons over the years. Is there anything that you try to do to encourage your students when you were working with them to really, I guess, take it serious and explain to them some of the benefits of making sure that they were, stretching before they play and even stretching after, so sort of a pre-stretch and a post-stretch. Was there anything that you tried to do with your students in order to get them, I guess, golf fit ready?
Yes, Ted, again, thank you for having me on the show. The first thing I have all my students do is before they play, I tell them before you play, just take a walk around the neighborhood, get on a treadmill, get your body warmed up. Before you arrive, you already need to start warming your body up. I talk to them about their diet, about, eating, making sure that they've had enough food before they get there. I do I really emphasize like the orange whip, anything that's weighted that they can swing. I am going to be emphasizing that. And the medicine ball. I use a medicine ball, 4, 6 pound, 8 pound for the really elite players. I use medicine balls. I have some warm-up exercises that I do with them. And I have also led a class when I was at New Albany. I led a fitness class in the winter, and we did a lot of golf stretches, a lot of golf swings or swinging motions. I would, have them swing the orange whip and do it and put them through some cardiovascular stuff. But one thing that I really try to stress to them as well, I try to be honest with them. If someone comes to me and they are overweight, they're going to have a hard time enjoying the game, and they're going to have a hard time getting through life in general in a lot of ways. So I try to emphasize to them, hey, not only is this going to help your golf game, but you're going to enjoy your life a lot more. I work out 6 days a week personally, and I try to stress that to them and say, if I can do it, you can do it. And it doesn't have to be going to the gym for 2 hours. I'm talking about, 15 to 20 minutes a day of just doing something that to put your body, get your body, because you have to emphasize to the student that this is an athletic game and you're using your body to try to generate clubhead speed. You're not using your hands and your arms, you're using your body. And so you have to be able to be in shape to some degree to expect to play good golf.
Yeah, well said. Some excellent points, Jon. Thank you. Brett, I want to come back to you. Yeah, I want to come back to you, Brett, just to talk about really, most people think they understand what kind of stretching they need to do. And I know we don't have the ability for visual here, so we'll have to sort of use our imaginations for those of you listening out there. But talk about really how to stretch. What are some of the best – because, again, stretching for players that want to play golf might be different than stretching for another sport, just because you're using different muscles and the golf swing is different than maybe some other athletes. So there are obviously specific stretches that we might want to do that are going to be conducive for those that want to play their best golf. So talk a little bit about that, and then I've got some other questions for the guys.
Sure. Well, there's different kinds of stretching for different times of stretching. Prior to play, meant a dynamic stretching routine, which helps take joints through a full range of motion and usually replicate movements that are involved in the activity to come. But golfers should also do a lot of them that need to stretch more, which is most amateurs, what I call isolated stretching or static stretching, either before that dynamic warm-up or as the cool down. As you mentioned earlier, another thing they should be doing is cool down stretching, which the focus should be, without having an assessment, on certain parts of the body that are typically tight and restricted. Those are going to be the muscles in the front of the chest, the lats, the side of the back, which will restrict shoulder flexion, the ability to bring their arms up overhead. The muscles that attach your spine to your pelvis, it's known as the quadratus lumborum, really important muscle to stretch because it's a contralateral hip rotator. So if it's tight, it won't allow the body to turn in the opposite direction. The hip rotator is really important to stretch. Those are muscle groups that they should focus on in isolation, and then they should have a practice of dynamic stretching before they play, which is on my website as a PDF document download, and they could view that as well on my YouTube channel.
Okay, perfect. Now let me ask you, Brett, real quick, and then I'm going to get back into some questions with the other guys as well. Why is it important for a cool down stretching? I mean, I understand the importance, and I know the answer, but I just want you to explain it for the listeners out there. Obviously stretching before we get out and play and warming up and getting those muscles good and warm, especially if you're, early in the season up in the Northeast where it's still not quite, in the 70s maybe. It's a little cooler. The muscles are cool. I understand the importance of stretching, but what about post-round when we come out? Why the cool down stretching? What's important about that?
Who are you asking, Ted?
You, Brett. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, you were.
That was
I wasn't
for you
sure
again.
you were asking me. It helps the body recover from the activity. So the best time to do it, and it's not always a convenient time to do it, is not immediately after the activity is over, but before you go to bed, because that's when the muscles are going to start to stay in their shortened position, and if that happens, you tend to wake up a little bit sore in the morning. So the optimal time is not when the muscles are warm after the activity is over, but after you've cooled down and try to lengthen them up again. I don't know if that's something you do, but that's what I would recommend.
I try, and I must confess I don't do it every time, but I do try to do it. And I think, I think as we get older, unfortunately, you get a little. And guys, I'm sure you can all agree to this. How many times we've seen at a golf course, especially with some of our senior players, they'll get off the golf court and they'll, turn back and forth a couple times. They maybe lift a leg once or twice, and that's the extent of their stretch. And then they get out there and wonder why the golf ball goes 35 yards to the right or hooks to the left or what have you. But they're obviously not. They're not going to stretch, and it's unfortunate. But short of hitting them over the head, there's not a lot you can get them to do. Clint, I want to go to you again for a second, because the short game, obviously, you alluded to earlier, especially with putting and that, why it's important to be. And again, we're not talking about being an Olympiad or something like that. We're just talking about being fit enough. Why is it important to have those muscles stretched and be in good shape when you're playing? Putting. What benefit do you see? Obviously, being in shape.
Well, there's some obvious things, but it really, to me, you're still maintaining the same hip flex and tilt and spine angle in your putting and chipping as you do in your full swing. And so, therefore, you need to be in good enough shape that you can actually maintain and hold those positions through motion. We all can get there and stand still, but being able to maintain those positions while your body's moving in a circular fashion through the ball is something that's obvious, that you have to be reasonably ready to do that. We've all understand that's on this panel, we've played golf with a sore back. If you've played golf as long as we have, you've been out there and your back's been a little sore, and we all know how more difficult it is to maintain those positions when you're a little on the sore side. But to me, in order for a person to be fit and regular, it's what I alluded to a few minutes ago. The short game obviously is the very precise part of our game, and you well know that I think if you're going to play this game, you need to spend a predominant more time in that area than you do maybe in your full swings, which not very many people do. But there takes a stamina level to be able to stand there and hit that many shots over a period of time, staying in those positions. So I've always encouraged, look, if you're going to practice and then really want to improve your scoring, you got to spend some time here. And so, therefore, that ability to practice with any length of time and numbers of shots require you to be in a physical position and where you're not hurting yourself or making yourself overly sore and stiff by practicing that much in those positions through a short period, through a period of time. So in my opinion, it's as much about being able to spend the practice time and working on that part of the game and not begin to overstress those muscles in your back particularly.
Right.
Yeah, and excellent point, Clint. Thank you. And you're exactly right. I think a lot of people, don't understand the benefits of having a healthy body and being fit and Brandon, you had mentioned earlier, obviously people coming to the practice tee or coming for a lesson that are definitely overweight. That doesn't mean we're not trying to discourage anybody from wanting to play golf, but there are other issues there that need to be addressed. And, people don't think that golf can be physically demanding, and it's certainly not like football or baseball or hockey or some of these other more, contact type sports or, where there's, you're not running on the golf course. But it can be, and Brendan, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this. Obviously, you as well work a lot with the short game. You wrote a great book, by the way, called The Wedge Book, and you're coming out this fall with the putting book, excuse me. But what does it really matter for somebody that wants to really dial in those wedges, whether in good shape or not? What benefit are they going to see from that? That was for Brandon.
Brandon, you still there?
Yeah, sorry. I had it on mute, and my phone got locked on me, and I couldn't get it off mute. Sorry.
Did you hear the question?
So yeah, I did. Yeah. So
okay.
So here's the deal, right? Short game has a lot to do with some of the smaller muscles and the finer points in your hands and arms. no question, right? But if you don't have the larger muscles and the larger pieces of your body that are cooperating, then you can't think about the finer muscles of the hands and the arms. And what I mean is if you are so out of shape that you can't move and rotate and bend even just a little bit without losing your balance, then you're going to be thinking more about staying on your feet than you are how soft your hands and arms are moving, or how the golf club is hinging or rotating or releasing. In putting, if you're bending over and the simple act of getting into the right posture is painful, there's no doubt you could stand there and you could force yourself, even if it's even just moderately painful, you could force yourself to get into the correct posture because your instructor has told you why you need to do that. But if you're worried and thinking and pushing so hard on that, how much are you really worried about the flow of the club and speed control and acceleration profiles of the putter head? You're not at all. And so
right.
There's a limited amount of fitness. I don't even say limited. There's a floor, if you will, of fitness that has to be involved before you can really stop worrying about that piece and put your thought and mind on what you need to be worried about, specifically in short game. And short game is a little bit different than in the full swing because the club or the putter is moving slower. Slow enough, in fact, that we actually can manipulate and control it. We don't have a lot of the ability to do that in the full swing because it's going so fast. We can to some degree,
right.
But the full swing is more of a direct momentum in a direction and kind of hang on. Some people might agree or disagree with that, but in short game, I can manipulate the golf club or the putter head as it's moving, because it's slow enough. If all you're thinking about is how bad my lower back hurts because I'm trying to get in this stupid position that my instructor told me I needed to be in, you're not thinking about your hands, right? You're just not, and so.
Right.
That
right.
minimum level of fitness has to be there so you can put your mind where it should be.
Right. Well said. I don't know if I like being called stupid or not, but I'm just teasing you.
Well. I was calling myself stupid. That's what they're thinking, right?
Sure, of course.
Because they tell me that all the time. They're like, this stupid position you're asking me to get in, I just can't do it. I'm not sure I would call it stupid, but I can appreciate why you feel it's that way, right? But anyway,
right.
I digress.
Good point. Good point. Well said, Brandon. John, I want to pick up just from something that Brandon just mentioned here a moment ago. Really when comparing the full swing, to obviously in your short game, you're not always first very seldomly ever taking a full swing. There's a certain momentum with the full swing that really allows the sort of the natural flow, if you will, of the golf club. So obviously, you can, I won't say cheat a little bit, but it gives you a little bit of an advantage if you're not as in good shape on a full swing than it is in the short game. What do you like to see from your students that you're working with or have worked with, John, where, because as Brandon pointed out, in the shorter part of the game, you're able to manipulate a little bit more because the swing is slower in that. In the full swing, again, that momentum. Talk a little bit about, if you wouldn't mind, what some of the, things that you like to see golfers do in order to be able to get, into those different transition areas with the golf swing.
Well, when I look at the golf swing, I'm looking. One of the things I'm going to be looking at is comparing the full swing to the short game. Is I try to stress the time that it takes the club to go back into the ball is 1 second. So obviously, if I've got a 3-foot putt, I'm not going to make a full swing, but I'm still going to take the putter head back into the ball in essentially 1 second. That's what the great players do. I want the club head moving at its fastest point when it's striking the ball. That means the ball's got to be in the right spot, your distance from the ball, all those things that we all deal with on a daily basis with our students. So, the motion, I had the opportunity to spend 20 years with Phil Rogers, and, he said the best way to teach the full swing is to teach pitching because it has all the same motion that you have in the full swing. you are going to, and it has the same time that you're going to have in the full swing, but you're going to be hitting shorter shots, and it's going to improve your scoring. So you have an added benefit. I tell my students, if you have one thing to work on, if you come home and you have 15 minutes after work and you have one thing to work on your pitching. Because if you work on your pitching, you're going to improve your scoring, you're going to improve your full swing, and you're going to maintain your timing. And if you can do that, I think that's the best way to maximize, a short amount of time. Because most people that we're dealing with on a daily basis when we're teaching them, they don't have hours to work on their game. They have minutes a lot of times, and a lot of times it's right before they tee off. So little things like that, I think that if you can work on those skills when you're comparing those. And then as far as the what the guys are talking about with staying in shape and the body and everything, what I find difficult about the short game, if you're not feeling well, like Clint was saying, maybe your back stiff or whatever, is those uneven lies and those difficult shots around the green where you got 1 foot in the bunker, 1 foot out. You've got, downhill lies out of the bunker, things like that. That's when, if you're not in shape, boy, it really gets magnified on the golf course. And then you're going to have no touch and no feel, and because you're going to be worried, kind of like Brandon was saying, you're going to be worried so much about your injury that you're not really able to focus on your swing.
Yeah, some excellent points. Thank you, Jon.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, what about that? That's something there that I'm sure that you've had with some of your students that have come in through some of your fitness programs that obviously are out in the golf course that maybe have head injuries or have some aches and pains. We all get them, especially as we get older. If the student's focusing 90% of their time or even 80% of their time on, their dysfunction, if you will, out in the golf course, mm-hmm. and not really able to focus on their game, that's a big problem, correct?
Yeah, it's a big problem. It's a simple solution. So the reason why that focus is the way it is because the number one job of the brain is to keep you safe. So if the brain doesn't think that movement is safe for you, that it's somehow a threat, it may cause you to fall, which could, in the past, could lead to death. It's not going to let you move. So it can't predict what will happen next. It's going to create tension. And that tension is reflected in the golfer not being able to follow through and not being able to pay attention to those finer points that were just spoken about, to what they need to be doing with their hands or their arms, because the organism feels like it's not safe. And that's where
right.
That's another reason to be fit, because your body's not going to allow you to move in a way that it feels threatened. So if you don't have proper mobility and stability and flexibility to get in position and maintain that position, you're just not going to have a good time out there.
Yeah, and well said as well, Brett. You're exactly right. And something too, and guys, feel free. I'm not going to go any specific order, but to jump in on this one here. This is something that we see with a lot of our more senior golfers. That as we get older. And our nerves in all parts of our body aren't functioning to their full capacity. This is one of the reasons why you see a lot of older golfers become very unsteady. Everybody always blames the muscles and blames it, on old age. But really, what it boils down to, and Brett, please correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but my understanding is, from what I've been told, is that as we get older, the nerves in our body are not firing as quickly and as efficiently as they did when we were younger. So as an example, they don't feel the ground the same as they once did. So you'll see a lot of older people, and it's not just because they're stiff and rigid, it's because they don't feel the ground the same way. So when they take a step, they're kind of schlepping their feet along because their nerves are not firing back to the brain saying, hey, there's ground underneath. So they're kind of become very unsteady. And obviously there's some muscle issues as well, and obviously some general aches and pains that we all feel. But that's an area as well too. And I know that there's, that's where you're going to get a little more medical help maybe if there is a serious issue. But that's something as well I think that golfers need to be aware of. And I want to point out one last thing. that I have found personally, and I did this years ago, and I want to ask right around the panel here if you've ever used them, and I'm talking about the good ones. I'm not talking about the cheap ones that you buy. Have any of you ever used magnetic insoles in your shoes? And anybody?
I have not.
Yes or no?
No.
No, not for me.
No? Okay. I'm going to make a suggestion to all of you and for the listeners out there, and the reason why I say don't buy the cheap ones, you can get cheap ones, and I'm not going to name the retail outlets for whatever reason, but you know, you can get them for $19.99 and stuff like that. The magnets in them are not sufficient. There is a company, and I've used this company, so I'm going to recommend. I believe it's pronounced Nikken, I think it's Nikken. I think it's Nikken or Nikken.com. Now, I'm going to forewarn you, they're about $80 for a pair. But I'm telling you that if you slip those into your golf shoes, what an incredible difference you will find in walking. When I used them years ago, and I have to get another pair, by the way, because I lost the other ones that I had, or they were stolen, one of the two. But what a difference in you know, walking around the golf course I felt. I didn't feel any of the discomfort and the energy, and there's just something about it. I don't understand all the technology, so I'm not going to try to pretend. But if you ever get an opportunity to check it out, guys, purchase yourself a really good pair of magnetic insoles and stick them in your shoes, any shoe, but particularly your golf shoes, and when you play, and I guarantee you'll notice a difference walking around the golf course. Just a personal note for you guys to consider. I want to move it along. Let's talk about, I think, something that's really been talked about before, not only on the show, but in general in the golfing community. But the question begs is, and this is sort of getting away from the fitness side a little bit, but why aren't golf scores going down despite so many of the advances in club and ball technology out there and a host of gadgets? John, I'm going to let you start this time. Just in your opinion, and this is not to discredit anybody that's you know, part of some of the great gadgets out there. There are certainly a lot of great products out there, certainly some great technology. But the truth of the matter is the stats don't lie, and the golf scores are still not really going down very much despite all of this technology. Your thoughts on that?
I think that and I'm not saying this just to plug all of our wallets, but I think that I don't think people take enough instruction. I don't think that people, if you look at the number of people at your club and then the percentage that actually take lessons, and I'm not talking about one lesson a year, I'm talking about on a consistent basis, it's very difficult. You know, when I see, it drives me crazy when I see husbands trying to teach their wives and fathers trying to teach their sons that don't know what they're doing. I realize there's people out there that really know how to teach, but a lot of times it makes me, when I walk by them, because I know the information that they're telling them to do is not right. When they're telling them, just keep your eye on the ball, just keep your eye on the ball, I know that's not going to help them. And so it's very frustrating for me as an instructor, and I realize a lot of people don't want to pay the money for the lessons, but do yourself a favor. If you want to lower your scores, get yourself on a program and don't just take 8 hours of full swing lessons. Take all kinds of lessons. Take, you know, short game, take playing lessons. Do maybe specify some of that time for club fitting. Get an assessment done on your, you know, going to someone like Brett where you're getting your physical assessment done as well. And budget it for, right. You know, the best students I've had are the ones that take 5 or 6 lessons early on in the season, and then I say, go at it. Just go play now. You've got it. Go play. They're the ones whose handicaps always go down. It's the person who takes the lesson the day before the member guest. They're the ones that have the frustration, and that's just not the way golf is. I think if more people took lessons, I think their scores would go down.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent point. Well said, John. Brandon, what about yourself? You know, scores aren't going down. I'm sure you agree with a lot that John said, but anything you want to add to that? We got a lot of technology, a lot of great clubs out there, and great product out there, as we all see at the PGA show every year. But still, the scores, as John pointed out, for very few are changing much. What's happening, do you think?
Yeah, well, the first of all, I absolutely agree, and you're right. It will come across as a cheap attempt to put more money in all of our instructors' pockets, but that's just it. I mean, people don't spend enough time working properly on their game. And working is an important word, and properly is an important word, and then they're important together, right? People, as a general rule, don't spend enough time practicing, and the time they do spend practicing usually isn't on the right stuff. And so you've got to get the help. You've got to go see somebody that can help you in the right direction and push you in the right way. The second thing I'll say is, and this I have to be very careful here that I don't offend any manufacturers. Okay,
right?
Golf clubs have not ever, and will not ever help you play better golf. Okay, it's an inanimate object. If I stood it up and then moved my hand from it, it's going to fall lifeless to the ground. Okay, it doesn't do anything that you don't make it do. And we are perhaps one of the only industries. Now think about this. Ponder this for a second. Name me one other sports industry, maybe tennis, maybe, that touts equipment as helping you to be better at the sport. Do you hear baseball glove companies talk about how their baseball glove helps you catch it more? Do you hear football cleat companies talk about how their cleats make you run faster? We are the only sport on planet Earth that lets our manufacturers get away with peddling the idea that buying more equipment or better equipment will help you play better golf. If you deliver the face of the golf club 10 degrees open to the target line and swing it 9 degrees left of the target line, I got news for you folks, you're going to play bad golf. I don't care what kind of equipment you have, right? And so the whole idea, I think, is flawed behind new technology in the game and advances in technology. Why aren't handicaps coming down? Because the technology doesn't drive the handicap. That's the problem.
Yep.
Right? And so I think people have to spend more time working on their game the right way. If you do that, you could play with a set of pings that are 15 years old and hit good golf shots. Period.
Yep.
Right? Now, there's some fringe arguments that, clean wedges help you spin it better, which helps you stop it more, and, larger sweet spots. And look, I'm not denying all that, right? Technology is absolutely advanced, but it's on the fringes, and the fringes don't drive the national handicap average. And so I better stop and get off my soapbox before I offend somebody else. But that's my 2 cents. Work on your game more. That's all I got.
Amen.
You're exactly right, Brandon. And I've said this. Listen, you're certainly not the first, and certainly won't be the last to say it, especially on this show. I've made no bones about it. I would rather see a student spend that $400 or $400, whatever the new drivers are going for now, on some good quality instruction than buying that new piece of equipment. And just to maybe alter a little bit about what you said, and then Clint, I'm going to let you jump in.
I can't.
There are certainly benefits to be had. Certainly benefits to be had with equipment. Again, if you know what you're doing, and this is why at the pro level, or certainly at the lower handicap level, sure, those players are going to see some benefits from equipment, only because first off, they understand the fundamentals. They know how to put the club in the ball properly, how to swing properly, and so forth. So obviously they're going to reap benefits of that technology. But for a 25-plus handicap, you're exactly right, Brandon. If he or she is using the latest and greatest driver and expects to get 10, 20, 30 extra yards, it's just not going to happen, especially if they don't know how to set up to the golf ball, or they don't know how to swing the club properly, or they don't even know what a square club face is. So there's a lot of variables there, and I agree exactly. And really, it's a shame. I mean, I love the manufacturers. I think they got some great stuff out there. It's exciting to see, but it bothers me as well to hear them boast about it every year that, we've got this great new product coming out next year. And I'm excited to hear about it, but then as soon as it starts going through that wheel of marketing ploy that it's going to do this, and this for your game, right away, my mind starts going in reverse and saying, like backing up. You hear that beep, 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 like a truck backing up. It's like that's just garbage, and you know it. Clint.
Yeah, let me say one more thing, and then Clint, it's all yours. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not off my soapbox just yet. So
keep preaching.
Look, here's the deal. Okay, you have to remember why the manufacturers exist. Okay, they are in the business to sell golf equipment. Let me say that again. They're there to sell golf equipment. They are not there to make you play better golf. Okay? Right. Now, I love them. It's capitalism. God bless them. They're all making hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's great. Okay? But they are not in it to help you play better golf. They're in it to sell golf clubs. And if they want to sell golf clubs, they have to tell you the advantage of the new golf club they want you to buy. And they have chosen to give that advantage as an improvement in your golf score. Listen, if I hit it 12 yards farther every time a certain manufacturer told me I was going to hit it 12 yards farther with a new driver, it'd be going 900 by now.
Right.
Right? I mean, let's go 12. Right. Let's go 12 yards for the last 18 drivers. Right? You got to remember why they're in it, and if you approach it with that attitude, then you start to understand why the equipment doesn't make you better. Why you got to turn to your instructor and your work on the golf course to make you better. Okay, now I'm officially done. Go, Clint.
Okay, my turn.
Clint?
All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Clint.
Y'all sit down and strap it in because here it comes. Everything is absolutely correct. I've been teaching golf for over 40 years. I'm a lifetime member, retired PGA golf instructor. And, fellas, we got to also look at ourselves in the mirror, too. Now, you're absolutely correct in saying that the golf manufacturers are there to sell equipment. That's what they're in the business for. But in reality, they're there to sell a person hitting. They want to hit it better. And for some reason, the mass public thinks that hitting it better is going to make them better players. And that's not true. You all agree to that. Hitting it better doesn't make you a better player. So if it's their responsibility to sell better hitting, it's our responsibility as instructors to teach the person how to play, how to get around the golf course, use what they have better. I can tell you right now, I've got a 30-year-old driver in my bag, and I hit it further than any new thing on the market because I hit it square, I hit it flush, and I hit it straight. Okay, so you're absolutely right. Equipment, you're right. If it was 15 yards further, par fives would be drivable. Okay? But we've got to take some responsibilities as instructors to start convincing our students that just going out to the driving range or the practice facility, making full swings for an hour and working on that is really not going to make them a better player. It's going to make them a better hitter, yes, but it's not going to make them a better player. So we have to take the responsibilities of giving our students the confidence to understand that they can move beyond hitting. They have to sometimes accept the fact that that's as good as they're going to hit it. You know, I do a program called the Third Shot Program, and the first question I ask everybody is I ask them, how do you shoot 108? Well, you make all sixes, you shoot 108. Well, if you want to shoot 90, which is all fives, what's the most important shot for you to be good at? And the answer to that question is your third one. If you can get your third shot on the green every time in two putts, you shoot 90. So how important is the pitching, like we talked about, or the third shot, to lower their score? My opinion, the reason that people's handicaps are not coming down, they're not focused on, this was mentioned before, focused on what they need to be improving on. But for some reason, we never teach them or show them that it's okay to hit it the way they're hitting it. That gives them the luxury of moving over to that short game area or spend more time on the putting green because they can accept the fact that they're hitting it okay. But you see, one of the things we understand as a profession is that student's coming to us wanting to hit it better. So what do? We bounce right out there on the practice tee, and we hit balls for an hour. You've all seen it because that's what our students come expecting us to do. we have to convince our students that, hey, you're hitting it okay. We might get a little better next week, but right now we're hitting it okay. Let's go work on your putting. Let's go see if we can get you down from 108 down to 90. And that's where we start seeing people improve their playing ability versus their hit ability. And that's on us. As PGA instructors and golf instructors, that convincing our student it's about playability versus hitability is on us. And we have to take responsibility to take our students where they need to go. And too many times, I've done it myself, I've stood up there and watched them hit balls as, well, let's go putt, and they give you that puzzled look about why should we go chip and putt? I'm not hitting it good enough yet. You have to convince them of that. Mm-hmm. And that's when we'll start seeing scores go down. Because everything y'all have said is absolutely equipment is there, we got all of it, why is it not coming down, is because we're not taking our students to a place where they're going to lower their score. And hopefully that hadn't offended anybody.
Well said, Clint.
No, you're exactly right, Clint, and I'm glad I strapped myself in first because, boy, you came out with both barrels on that one. But you're exactly right, my friend. That's the truth of the matter is, and this is not to pick on our fellow golf instructors out there, but we've all fell victim to it. But a lot of it is because that's what the students are coming. That's what they're, this is where, mass marketing has really done harm to the golf industry and particularly the golf professional, because we're reaping the aftermath of some heavy marketing. And what's happening is, Clint, and as you said, you're exactly right. People are coming out and saying, well, I'm just not hitting the ball right. And as you said, I can't break 100. And they don't want to go to the short game area or the short area of the practice range. They want to go out there and beat their driver for an hour or so, or their longer clubs, because I think that's what's going to solve the problem. Well, as most of us know, your driver, you might hit 13, 14 times in a round, whereas right. Clint, as you pointed out, your wedges and putter and that you're using more than 50% in the golf game. So where are you putting your time? Where are you putting your effort? I got to give the last couple of minutes because we're literally out of time here. To Brett. Brett, I hope you enjoyed our rants as golf professionals. John, Brandon, and Clint and I can certainly battle with the best of them. But I want to give you an opportunity just to very quickly sort of wrap this up and let the folks out there know how they can prepare mentally, physically, and nutritionally for performance and recovery. Go.
Sure. I wanted to say first I agree with all the guests that just spoke about why the scores are not getting any better. One of my teachers said in a lecture once, give Wayne Gretzky a broomstick and he's still going to score a goal on you. So at the end of the day, it's the body that plays the game, not the equipment. So to be good at golf, you need to be sound biomechanically. You still need great instruction to learn how to play the game, the strategy of the game, and for the motor control that you're going to get from a good instructor, which are the guests that you have on the show tonight. So to prepare physically, I think you need to have a warm-up process in practice. You need to have a recovery process. And for nutrition, just to keep it really simple, I know we don't have a lot of time, you need to drink half your body weight in water every day. Start your day with hydration. You want to make sure that you have fuel in your system before you go out into play, which means to have a breakfast that's not a carbohydrate-based breakfast that includes good proteins and fats. And during the round, you want to make sure you stay hydrated and keep your blood sugar levels stable by eating healthy snacks. And we can get into some of those if you like.
Well said. And let me just add one final note as well. And I know, especially when you get into some of the country clubs and obviously some of the resort golf, and the old cart girl comes around, everybody likes to have a cold beer, especially if they're on vacation. Save the beer for the 19th hole, guys, because I'll tell you right now, the worst thing you want to do, especially when you get down here in the south, Brandon, John, and Clint and I can certainly attest to this. When it starts creeping up into 90-plus and that humidity gets going up there, the last thing you want to do, especially the front nine, is to knock back a couple of cold ones, thinking it's going to be refreshing, because you're going to become very lethargic very quick. It's going to dehydrate you, number one, and you're just not going to play your best golf. And I'm not trying to say that to rain on anybody's parade, but get out there, keep hydrated, as Brett just talked about. Enjoy it, and then you know what? When you're sitting back in the clubhouse and maybe want to have a cold refreshment, then by all means, have at it. But don't do it during your round, because I'm telling you, if you want to play better golf, that's the quickest way to ruin your game. And I'm not trying to rain anybody's parade, but that's just my thought. But Jon, Brandon, and Clint, and Brett, I want to thank you guys. Very interesting discussion tonight. I'm glad that we were able to get some great responses in, some great questions in, and thank you guys, as always, for joining me on the Coach's Corner panel.
Thank you, Ted.
Glad to be here
tonight.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. All right, until next time, guys, have a great weekend, and again, thank you for joining me on Coach's Corner.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was my very special guests, as I said, Brett Cohen, Jon Decker, Brandon Stooksbury, and Clint Wright, all great professionals. But I've got three more, as I said many, many times, a motley crew if there ever was one. In fact, I told one of them that this afternoon on the phone. Let me just tell you a little bit about these guys, and then I'll bring them on out. First up, of course, is Jon Dunigan. He's a PGA Master Teaching Professional, considered to be one of the top 100 teachers in the game today by Golf Magazine. He's on the advisory board for Certified Coaches Association and a Certified Laser Optics Putting Coach, as well as being TPI certified. Mr. Chuck Evans, also a Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher, Golf Digest Top Teachers in America, Top 50 Growth of the Game teacher. He's a PGA Tour coach and owner, of course, of Chuck Evans Golf. And certainly, last but not least, Mr. Tom Stickney. He's the Director of Operations for the Vidanta Golf Academies down in Mexico. He's also a Golf Magazine Top 100 teacher, Golf Digest Top Teacher, and Golf Tips Top 25 Instructor. Many, many other accolades as well. But let me bring these guys out and get into some great discussion tonight.
Hey,
guys,
Ted.
good evening,
Hey,
and
Ted.
welcome to Golf Talk. Good
Hello,
evening, and welcome
gentlemen.
to Golf Talk Live.
Well,
Hey,
thank you
all
very
right,
much.
Dick and Chuck.
Hey, guys.
All right. Well, listen.
The one
thank
thing
you very.
you forgot
Yeah,
to
thank
mention,
you. I'm
the one
sorry.
thing
What?
you forgot to mention was that I'm also the youngest of all those guys.
Yeah, and you're also the one that has much less hair than the other two.
Point
Skip
made.
in the gene pool. Skip in the gene pool.
There you go.
Well, as I expected, we're coming right out of the gate, right from the beginning. Jon, Chuck, and Tom, thank you very much for coming on. I've been excited about having the three of you back on. I know we tried doing this once before, but unfortunately, I don't know whether Tom fell asleep or what the deal was, but he wasn't able to join us the last time for a great discussion. But he made it this time, so Tom, thank you. God bless you, brother, for making it on time. Just kidding with you.
Yeah,
Hey,
I got figured it out now.
I want to listen. I've gotten a little flustered with the time zone sometimes too. A lot of people, it's funny. One of the guests earlier, before I digress for a second, we were talking about this. Of course, I'm in the northwest part of Florida, up here in the Panhandle, and a lot of people don't realize this. Everybody assumes that the whole state of Florida is under the Eastern time zone, but about 2 hours, west of Tallahassee is the Central time zone, which is where I am. So a lot of people, when I promote the show, of course, I promote the Central time zone. A lot of my guests, of course, that are on the East Coast are under Eastern, so they get a little bit mixed up. So you're in good company, Tom.
Well, I appreciate the help. I need all of it I can get, that's for sure.
All right, I'm going to start right out from the gate. This I got to confess, this question actually came from Chuck. I was trying to put together some notes late last night, to think about what I wanted to talk about with you three. And I know you were all very well-rounded and great professionals, been doing this for a long, long time. But Chuck kind of gave me an idea here. We're going to run with this. So my first question to you guys, and Chuck, I'm going to let you go last just because it was your question. and again, let you sit back and listen to the other two. But Jon, I'm going to start with you. What were some of your biggest influences throughout your career that have helped you to sort of, accompany your teaching and coaching styles today? Who were some of your influences, and what were some of your influences to become who you are today?
Well, the first one, without doubt, is the Golfing Machine book. That was my first golf instruction book, and it was a lot harder than it looked. The book was laid out differently. A man named Mac O'Grady helped me learn how to read it one day, and then Mr. Chuck Evans, believe it or not, helped me tremendously years ago with it. I also worked with Mike Bender when I was working on my own game, and then I had various help with putting and short game. Let's see, I know that I'm going to leave people out, but David Orr's wonderful, Craig Farnsworth, and Mike Shannon. I spent time with all those guys and learned a ton there. And then I have gone around the country learning from other pros. Like I'm nothing special. All of us have gone around the country, if not the world, looking for new information from other pros.
Right. Well, and I think that's a great testament, really, to who you are as an individual. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people, and it's not just in the golf industry, but even out of the industry, when they get to a point in their careers that think, well, I know everything. That's just not true. I think and even playing golf, I think because golf is sort of a progressive game in the sense that you're never going to completely master it. You might master certain aspects of it or be very good at certain aspects, but you're always going to be continually learning and grooving new ways to improve your score. And I think that when you don't recognize that, you become very stagnant and you don't progress or grow in your game. Tom, what about you? What were some of your biggest influences in your teaching and coaching styles that you're using today? Who were some of the people that were most instrumental in helping you get to where you are today?
And it's funny. I bought, when I came in, I was always an analytical teacher, and I was always very interested in technology, 3D motion analysis and video systems and all that stuff. At the time, I had actually gone to see Hank Haney in college, and I saw he had the first split screen video system that I'd ever seen. So when I got into the business, the first thing I did is I've got to have that. And then there was also a 3D motion analysis system called the Swing Motion Trainer. So I bought that. So I had this equipment. I also had a club path monitor that worked with photoelectric cells. So, that was very, very rudimentary back in the day. And,
right.
It's funny. So here I am. I've had all this equipment, and I have no idea how to use it. So I'm just kind of fiddling around with it. And one of the assistants that was teaching on the lesson tee next to me, his name was Charlie Long, who incidentally was an authorized golfing machine instructor. So I was teaching a lesson one day, and I was spouting off about whatever I thought, and then I was listening to him kind of out of the corner of my ear. And I listened, and I said, wow, whatever he's saying sure sounds a lot better than what I'm saying. And boy, it sounds like he knows a hell of a lot more than I do. And boy, I think I need to talk to him about that. Because here I am, I have all this equipment, but boy, I don't think I really know what I'm doing. And so I talked to Charlie, and he introduced me to the golfing machine. And like everybody, you get to chapter 2 with all the diagrams, and you take it and you huck it across the room because you think it's just too complicated to read. Never mind that reading the preface, which tells you everything you need to know about how to go about reading the book. So at any rate, I picked up the golfing machine, started studying with Charlie, helped a little bit, Ben Doyle helped a little bit, and then, as with Jon, Chuck was very instrumental in helping me understand a lot more about how the things are put together and how to understand, the different components and the different variations of those components. So for me, it started out with, high-tech equipment because I have a degree in exercise physiology. So I used my physiology background with the 3D motion and then coupled it in with the golfing machine stuff. So, from there I had a pretty good foundation to at least build on what I felt were the next steps to take. After that I was very interested in Mac O'Grady stuff with Morad. I got a bootleg copy of that a lot of us had seen with, when Mac was wearing his little white running suit and, standing there talking about, yeah, exactly. Wearing, talking about motor set and foveal lock and all that stuff. So, I started in on that. And then basically at that time in the mid 1990s, there wasn't, obviously the internet wasn't quite as developed as it is now, so you had to read. So I picked up every book, every magazine, everything and anything I could figure out, and I just read and read and read. And then, over time I was lucky enough to meet very, very influential people and spend some time with guys like Chuck and Ron Gring and people that knew obviously a lot more than I did. And, from there you kind of, the rest is history. You just keep learning.
Well said. It's interesting, when you pose that question to individuals, what sort of, where they draw their experience from. And it's very interesting to see that how humble everybody is at the same time. And, we all have our experience. We've all drawn from, some of the best out there, whether it be visually, through video or reading or a conversation. But it's interesting, both of you, Jon and Tom, acknowledge that, in the beginning, it's a learning process. Chuck, of course, I think you just, came right out and had everything well at hand. I think you were probably the master when you first arrived on the scene. I don't know. I mean, both of these gentlemen gave you some great accolades there, referring to you. So you must have been doing something right out of the gate. But Chuck, what about yourself? What were some of the teaching and coaching styles? What were some of the biggest influences for you?
Well, when I started, my swing theory or model of the month was what was ever in the golf publications.
Right.
So it varied. So it varied from month to month, and I said, there's got to be a better way. And, through research and asking around, I went and I shadowed, Toski. I shadowed Ballard. I shadowed Flick. All the big name teachers at the time, and they were all doing wildly different things. Jimmy was all about the body and no arms. Flick was all about the arms and no body, and Toski was a blend of both. I got turned on to the golfing machine. So, I bought the book, and I didn't understand it, just like everybody that picks it up didn't understand it at all. And so I made a call up to Seattle to try to find out where the nearest authorized instructor was. And before that, I'd spent a little time with Ron Gring, and it was quite the eye-opening experience. He was saying things like Tom said his next-door teacher did, things I didn't quite understand, but he didn't really say anything about the golfing machine, although years later he did. So I called up there to talk to Mr. Kelly, and he had died the month before. He died on Valentine's Day, actually. I think it was 83, Valentine's 83, addressing the Georgia section PGA. He died on stage. So I got my start in the golfing machine and just kind of studied and learned from everybody I could. Alex Sloan, Tom Tomasello, Ben Doyle, took a little bit of everything because each one of them were totally different as well. And that was what the beauty is the golfing machine is it doesn't give you a way, it gives you trillions of ways to do it. So, but from there, I just kept studying, and as time goes by, you learn more and more. I started studying 3D motion analysis back with Gideon Ariel back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. He developed a 3D motion analysis system. It was the very first one of its kind. He actually did it in the 60s. And it was for track and field because he was a track and field athlete. But he made an application for golf, and then, from there you go into the radar systems, and all three of us use different radars. Those two guys use TrackMan, I use FlightScope, and we all use different 3D body motion analysis systems. But like a lot of other guys, I mean, like if I have no qualms in calling somebody and say, this is what I see, what are your thoughts? I've done it with John many times. I've done it with Tom many times. Done it with Martin Hall. And likewise, I get calls. What do you think about this, and what do you think about that? Well, if you put two guys in the same room, they may not agree on everything, but you'll eventually come to a conclusion. And that conclusion is neither one of us either have a clue or this will work. So, I've kind of done that my whole life, and always trying to find out more. But and not because they're just on the phone. There's a reason I like to talk with these guys, is because John and Tom are two of the smartest guys out there in the teaching world. And if viewers or listeners ever get a chance, to get with either one of them, they should snap that up in a heartbeat. So.
Could
well
I
said,
interject there?
You certainly can.
So it's kind of interesting that we all kind of came in with the same kind of like really mechanical background. But I think one of the big things that we've all done as we have evolved is we've kind of moved more toward coaching, the complete golfer rather than just teaching the swing. Would you guys say that's a fair statement?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no question.
Do you think, well said, John, do you think, guys, too, that, I think what we're, in the profession, what we're starting to see now is a more, a direction on teaching people how to actually play the game, which I'm sure is what you're alluding to, John, than, as you said, getting into all the mechanics. I think when you first get into this industry, you are very mechanical. You're thinking about, all the getting in the right positions and so forth. But as we all have discovered here in recent times, we're all uniquely different. Everybody's swing is different. And I think trying to put everybody into one box, which leads me to the next question. There's a lot of swing theories out there. Everybody's got their own opinion, what's the right swing and what's the wrong swing. But the truth of the matter is we're all different. We're all different shapes, sizes, weights, and so forth. And to sort of compartmentalize everybody into one box and have everybody swinging the same is just not going to happen. So I want to ask you guys this question. Is it smart to be knowledgeable in just one sort of swing theory, or should be well-rounded in a multitude of maybe theories may not even be the right word, but disciplines, if you will, to be the biggest help to our students? And John, I'm going to go back to you first.
Well, I think it's helpful to have, studied them all so that you can kind of weed through this, person that's standing in front of you and go, hey, you know what? I think you could use a little Jimmy Ballard. Well, I think this guy could use a little stack and tilt there to make them, what in my case, what I call execute the essential skills better. So if you don't have exposure to all this stuff, that's why, like Chuck was saying, we get into a room, ask each other questions, and I think most of us are hoping to hear something different because they might be able to give us another tool for our toolbox. So I might not teach everybody one way to swing, but I might use all the different models that have been out there at different times on people.
Right. Well said. That was exactly what I was looking for. I'm going to go to you this time. Chuck, what about you? Do you agree along the lines of what John just said, is that it's good to be sort of well-rounded and have an understanding of a lot of different disciplines out there, as opposed to just sort of sticking with one theory and sort of pushing that to your students? Is it better to sort of have a mixed bag of tools, if you will, so that you can deal with a multitude of different types of students?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to be aware of what's going on, in our world, and have a working knowledge of it, because, like I said, every student is not the same. I do think, going back to your original question, however, I'm not sold on the fact that that teachers nowadays are, and the reason I say this is because you can look at any golf forum and figure it out. I'm not really sold on the fact that teachers are coaching players to play golf. I think a lot of them are still hard locked into the mechanical aspects of the swing. And and again, you find these arguments all over the internet. I think one of the greatest teachers ever had the most simple way to do things, and that was John Jacobs. Because he saw the flight of the golf ball and backed it up. I mean, and I think all three of us would agree that if you go from the ball and you work it back, you work back to the club, then you work back to the arms and the body. I mean, you just kind of work it backwards, and pretty soon you'll figure out, what's the cause of this. I mean, the golfing machine always said, if you're out of balance, look at zone 1, which is the pivot. What's the body doing? If you have distance issues, look at zone 2, what the arms are doing. Are they swinging or not swinging? And then if you have accuracy problems, look at what the hands are doing because they're controlling the club face. So with all this newfound stuff out there, everything always comes back. It's hard for some people to admit, but that's what it is. And I don't think that we as coaches, I know I don't do enough of it. I try to do as much as I can, but I like to get people on the golf course as quickly as possible so they can learn how to actually play golf, hit the scoring shots, learn how to have course management so they can figure out their own game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chuck, exactly. Tom, I'm pretty sure you're going to pretty much mirror the other two guys in your answer with this, but go ahead. Any additional thoughts you want to add?
Yeah, I think that, obviously they both have the right idea. I think the only thing I'd like to add is that, I also feel like the argument can be made the other way that, well, if you teach everybody in their own way, half your students love you, half your students hate you, and then if you teach a model swing, half your students love you and half your students hate you. It's such a tough game, and it's such a hard thing to do that I think really and truly, when it comes down to the basis of it, I really think that as a student, you have to find somebody that you believe in. And hopefully you've done your research and you've found somebody that you feel can take you to the level you want. And you have to remember with teachers that there's a lot of teachers that can take you to a certain level, but there's very few teachers that can take you to any level. And you have to do your research to make sure that you're finding a guy that can get you to wherever you want to go. And if it's tour aspirations, college golf aspirations, or breaking 100, those are all three different types of teachers. So I think more than anything else is find the right guy, and then make sure once you've found the right guy that his his model swing or his methodology or whatever you want to call it, mirrors what you believe in. Because let me tell you, I can go to a lot of guys that we've all heard of and not believe in everything they're saying, and I'm not going to get any better. So I really think you have to find a guy that you believe in and that also works well with you. And I think that, I think if you have a guy that can teach multiple styles, I think you have a little bit better chance in a model swing, because if you can't do that model swing, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, and let me just add, I guess, my 2 cents, if you will. I think one of the other things, and I think it was Chuck that mentioned this, and John, you might have as well, about some of the forums that we see, and we've all seen it, and I won't get into a big discussion about it, but on Facebook and some of these others, and somebody will throw up, hey, what do you think of this? And about 100 answers will come in, and some of them will be positive and encouraging, and might agree, or if they disagree, it might be with a tone of civility, and then you'll get, as I put it, the rat pack that'll get in there and just cut everything apart. And to me, that sort of does the industry a disjustice. But I think one of the things that I like to see and would like to see more of is people getting into golf instruction. There's one component that you never hear really a lot of them talk about, and that is you really need to be a good communicator. There's a lot of people that might have an understanding about the golf swing, have an understanding about golf in general, but maybe are not effective communicators. And if you can't articulate your points very well, it can be very difficult on the other side for the student to understand what you're talking about. So as an example, some people are good at one thing, some people are good at another thing. And, as an example, let's say, Chuck, you might be a great golf instructor, coach, teacher, but you may not be a fantastic player. You may not make it out on the PGA Tour or what have you. And I think that sometimes you have to really understand what your skill set is. And we've all seen this. You get a lot of guys that get out there in these forums, and they talk a great game, but they really don't know what they're talking about. And it ends up getting into a battle, and they're just, sort of regurgitating that hyperbole, if you will, of what they think or something they've read. And I think that, if you can't effectively articulate or communicate what it is that you're trying to get your students to do, then maybe, instruction isn't what you need to do. I want to move on to kind of an interesting, it's a really two-part question. And Chuck, I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to throw you under the bus first with this one. And when I ask for this particular question, you don't have to get into specifics of the who's or the what's or the where, but just a general idea. At every point throughout our careers, we've all had successes and failures. From your recollection, what was your biggest failure on the lesson tee? And maybe talk a little bit about what went wrong, what you feel that you did wrong, or what you feel, this, for some reason the student just wasn't understanding what you were talking about. What would you classify as your biggest failure on the lesson tee?
I would say that it was a gentleman that used to be the CEO of a big company in Atlanta, and he played in a lot of Champions Tour event pro-ams, and he absolutely hated his swing, the way it looked. Now he was a scratch handicap player. And he said, I really don't like the way my swing looks. And I said, I just want you to make it prettier. And I said, well, we can do that. I said, but you may not be able to find the golf ball because it's going to be totally opposite of what you're doing now. So He was okay with that. So when we got through, he had a great-looking swing on video. He could not find a 100-yard wide cow pasture. But he was happy as can be. So from a failure point, the failure was that he didn't hit the ball as well as I'd like for him to have hit it. But the success part on his end was he was perfectly happy. So I think as coaches, we always have players that we keep pushing. We're trying to get them to play and look and feel and see things the way that we do. And sometimes that can be a detriment to the player, because what we see in mind for them can be totally different than what they see in their mind. And so it's important that we all get on the same page pretty quickly.
Yeah. Interesting thought. John, what about you? We've all had them. We've all had students or even a group of students maybe that we worked with and things just didn't go right. What was an example that you can think of?
Well, I think Chuck had definitely had a great point about we all need to get on the same page quickly. Another thing that I would add, and this is especially for a big point for new teachers, and I don't mean this is probably the wrong word, but inexperienced teachers. I mean, I really think that it took me 10,000 lessons before I figured out that I figured out that I knew something. That I knew what I was doing, regardless of the whatever the mechanical issue or the personality issue was. So it took me, and that's just my particular feeling. I had a client years ago when I was in Destin by the name of Craig Hanlon, and what I did was I looked at him. He was kind of a fat guy, couldn't really move very much. Just didn't have a lot of coordination, so to speak. So when I was younger, I was teaching there when I was in my mid-20s. I automatically assumed that people can move and people can do what I want them to do. And the bottom line is that my biggest failure was not realizing that, some people just can't move in a certain way, and some people can't do what we're asking them to do. And just because my favorite way to stop somebody from coming over the top was X, Y, and Z, that was going to work for everybody. And I was naive and young because I didn't have enough experience at the time to realize that, what, some people just can't move. And in the case of a guy like Craig, I did him a tremendous disservice because I'm trying to corkscrew this guy into a position that I'm surprised I didn't break him into two. And obviously he didn't get any better. And, so Craig, if you're out there listening, I owe you a free lesson now that I have a little bit better idea what's going on. So, but I think that's my biggest failure is being naive and not paying attention to things that I know now.
And that's a really great point, Jon, that you make. I think as golf instructors, I think that as we, get a little bit older, a little more seasoned, and our experience grows, I think we can look back in reflection and say, okay, had I had the opportunity to do that over again, I'm sure you would do things differently based on the knowledge that you have in today's game, in today's instruction. But at that time, it's a learning curve. When you first speak, when you first go through the various programs, regardless of what your certifications are, you're getting what I call book smart. You're getting your knowledge and understanding of the basics of golf, if you will. But until you actually get out there and put them into practice and do a little trial and error and massage and cultivate your own style, you're going to make some failures. Tom, I'm sure you've got one or two in your golf bag along the way. Tell us about one of yours.
One of my failures?
I think you mean that for Jon, don't you?
Yeah, I just gave you my failure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was Jon. I apologize. Jon, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I misunderstood.
No, I read Craig Hamlin. I read Craig Hamlin. I've already
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was Jon. I apologize.
No
Jon,
worries.
you go ahead. Sorry. Jon, you still with us?
You there? I may have messed up more than one. So there was a long time there when I really was. I built my own swing plane board and all that good stuff, and I would look at a person who, and I think when you're starting out, you get a lot of people who either can't hit the golf ball solid, or they slice the golf ball. And I would, at first, uniformly reshape the golf swing.
Yeah.
And I would do, I'd look at the pre-swing basics, the grip and the stance and all the good stuff. But then I would start to reshape swings. And it came upon me after looking on video and going, oh, my goodness, look at how much better this golf swing looks while people are hitting it over the train tracks to the right now. And it took me quite a while to figure out that, people are responding to the club face. Maybe the reason that they cut across the golf ball so hard is because of the club face. Maybe it's not just the shape of the swing. So I started kind of trying to delve into, okay, are you suffering from a face slice or a path slice or a concept slice? And then, going back and studying, like we all have done, the whole motor learning aspect of this. And, I ask all my questions. I asked it about 11 times today. Who's the best golf teacher in the world? And they say, well, you are, Coach. I go, no, it's Goldilocks. Getting people options for how to learn and teaching them. Actually, if you want to fix somebody's slice, sometimes you have to teach them how to slice it. It's kind of funny. When you go in there and you're always trying to solve a problem for somebody, that's one thing. But when you're teaching them how to learn, that's a whole different category.
Yeah, and that's thank you, and I apologize. Well, you know what my mishap is now. I got confused which guest was talking, so I apologize for that. But great point, Jon. Thank you. That's a really great point, because I think, if the student doesn't understand why they're doing whatever it is they're doing in the first place, it's great. We're there to help solve problems for them as teachers and coaches and so forth. But if they don't understand why they're making the mistake in the first place, then it's harder for them to understand the fix as well. So I agree with you, Jon. I think it's important for us to share with them, okay, why you're slicing the ball, what's happening in the golf swing, what's happening with the club face, why aren't you getting more distance? Everybody's quick to say, well, maybe if I had a brand new shiny driver and or if I had this or had that, I'd be able to hit it farther. But a lot of times it could be something in their setup, it could be something in their swing that's just not right, that's causing some of these issues. And I think once we've sort of diagnosed what's going on and then explain to them why they're doing it in the first place, then add the fix after, I think it helps them in the learning process. It also helps them when they're out there as well, when they start seeing those problems arise again. They say, aha, now I remember now, my club face is coming open or my path is incorrect or whatever the case may be. So great answers. And one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you guys that specific question was, again, not to point out flaws or anything like that, but just to show the students that might be listening out there that, it's a learning experience through this journey of instruction and coaching and teaching for us as well. And, obviously mistakes get made along the way. And obviously with our years of experience as time goes on, we learn, what to look out for and what not to as we continue on this journey. I want to flip it now very quickly to each of you. And Jon, I'm going to go to you first, even though I know you finished. Biggest success to date, what went right? What was the biggest success to date that you can recall? And again, you don't have to give names or anything specific, just, when everything sort of gelled just correctly. And then I'm going to go to Chuck, and then Tom, I'm going to let you go last.
So an individual success.
It can be an individual success. It can be just a general, whatever you want. Just what would you consider your biggest success to date? What went right?
So what went right started with that study of motor learning. So at some point I got on that. I got into the golf biomechanics like both Stick and Chuck have done and started to put together sort of a comprehensive understanding of how the club and ball work, hopefully what learning is, and then how people move. And then all of a sudden you can match things up very nicely in a way that helps pretty much anybody. I would say that is the biggest thing to date has been putting those three subject areas together to form what I would consider a very comprehensive coaching approach. How's that for skirting the question?
No. Well, that was well said. I like that. Chuck, what about you? Biggest success to date? It can be an individual if you want to share that. Again, you don't have to be specific with names or what have you, or something similar to what Jon just alluded to. What went right in what you consider your biggest success to date?
Well, I think that we all have successes and we all have failures, and I'm not sure that any stand out more than another, but I would have to agree with Jon that years ago, I'm going to mention Ron Green again, he kept after me to try to get into the biomechanics part of it. And as Jon said, once you understand what the body does, what it's capable of doing, and the sequence of how things work, it kind of makes everything go right. There's a big thing on the kinematic sequence. And everybody will tell you it starts from the ground up. But I have personally seen at least two different sequences. And the one, another one, it would be like Henrik Stenson uses much more of an upper body sequence than he does a lower body sequence. So in my mind, there's two of those. So when I have a player in front of me, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, can they separate the upper from the lower? And if they can't, and the upper is much more dominant, that's kind of the area that I head into. But I think also as coaches that if we're really doing our job and we're really affecting players, we actually learn something every day we teach with different players. Because we're going to learn something from them that we might not have thought about. It's like, we all talk about, there are stroke patterns or there are movement patterns. And there certainly are movement patterns. But at the end of the day, all these patterns, if they work for one player, then they have to be effective. And I use Jim Furyk for that example. You would never probably ever teach anybody to swing like Jim Furyk. But it has to be a successful pattern, or he wouldn't be where he's at. So if you discard something that looks kind of weird, but it's effective, you're actually cutting your own throat and not going to help the student.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And that's really what I was alluding to earlier when I said, we have to look at the students as individuals. You're going to get some students that are going to come with a kind of a funky-looking swing, but maybe it works for them. And just as, it was alluded to earlier, with your example, a student coming and even though it was hitting a pretty good ball, but maybe his swing wasn't looking that great, wanted you to change and make his swing look good. But knowing that the results were not going to be as good didn't seem to matter to him, but you understood the differences. Tom, what about you? What do you consider to date one of your biggest successes? What went right?
I think for me, I was always, because I was such a student of the game and followed the teachers and this and that, because obviously everybody wants to be a tour pro, but you also understand very quickly if you have that propensity. I mean, it wasn't in my wheelhouse to go out and shoot 65 every day. I wish it would have been, but it wasn't. So I enjoyed reading the stuff on the teachers, and I think my biggest success is when all the people that I have read about and heard their names and seen their pro students, pros that have worked with these particular players, when they have called me and asked me my opinion of something, and when they've become friends and not just colleagues, that to me has been my greatest success. Not that I know everything. By all means, I don't. I ask Bob more questions than I answer, that's for sure. But, it is nice when you can interact with your heroes in a way where they can learn something from you and you can learn something from them. And for me, that was probably my favorite success story personally. As far as a success story with students, I like Chuck said, it's just getting anybody to get to do what they want to do. To give anybody a little bit more happiness. That to me is what it's all about. And I could care less if the guy shoots at 65 or 105. If he's happy, then I've done my job.
Yeah, well said. And let me just add to what you just said, Tom. I have a theory that there are two reasons you stop asking questions. One is because you think that you know everything, or the other is you've moved on to the afterlife. I'm a firm believer, I don't care what level of instruction you're at or where you are in your career, never stop asking questions. There's always something that you can learn, and when you learn that's another benefit that you have to offer your students. I like what you just said, Tom, and in fact, all of you, I like what all of you said, but particularly, Tom, what you said. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, throughout their careers, stop asking those questions. There's always questions that can be asked, and it's part of the learning experience. And I've said this many, many times, golf mirrors life in so many ways. There's so many challenges and hurdles that we face out in the golf course, much like we do in life. And, it's a continual journey. It's always something, and I think as long as you have a forward momentum, whether it be in your career or whether it be in your life, then you're going to be in good company. When you stagnate and don't have that forward momentum, then I think it's time to get out. I'm going to do something a little bit interesting here. I'm going to kind of flip it onto you guys to talk about each other. And Chuck, I'm going to ask you to go first, if you don't mind. I want each of you and again, we've only got a few minutes here each, to talk about your fellow guests, meaning Tom and John and vice versa, what you like most about their approach. So, Chuck, I want you to first start with Jon and then Tom.
Well, there's nobody on the planet that asks more questions than Dunigan. So if you go to any workshop that he's attending, you might as well forget about getting your 2 cents worth in, because he's going to definitely hog the floor.
I'm not going to lie.
But no, and he knows I love him. So, but there's a difference in how you ask questions. Most of us ask questions because we really want to hear what the person has to say. We're looking for an answer.
Yes.
Some people ask questions with a predetermined answer in their mind just to see what you'll say so they can argue with you. But Jon,
right.
Jon is just he's been long overdue getting on top 100. I know Stick and I have both been trying to get it, do the things that we need to do internally as far as being on the selection committee and the education committees, to keep Jon's name in front of everybody. And he's done a great job. He's got a new book coming out. I think it's called the putting something, Jon?
It's Hole It.
Huh?
Hole It, it's called. It's part of a series.
Hole It.
The first one is Hole It for putting.
Yeah.
Then the next one is Bomb It, and the third one will be Stick It.
Wow. So
interesting.
Yeah. So he's pretty busy. I mean, he's between these books, these videos, and his world travels. I mean, there's just not a nicer guy, a more dedicated teacher with Dunigan, and his players absolutely love him. Tom, I've known Tom forever. I knew Tom when he had hair, so that's been a long time ago.
Oh wow!
I knew Tom when he was in Memphis before he came to the Panhandle over to the resort there. But Tom is also super dedicated to his craft. He's always learning more and more and more about what goes on in the golf swing. He's a prolific writer. I don't know if you ever read any of his articles, but prolific writer. I don't know how those words come out of his head, but he manages to put them to paper. And again, dedicated to his students, and like he said, it doesn't bother him if the guy shoots 65 or 105 as long as it makes him happy. Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Tom
definitely enjoys life. So the after hours things are you got to be in shape to hang with Stickney. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Jon, what about you? What about Chuck and Tom? What are your what do you like most about their approach?
Well, I'll start with Tom, and I read Tom's stuff, and he's what I would consider a very early adopter of pretty much anything that comes out. Would you agree with that, Stick?
Yes, sir. No question.
Yeah. So he's really at the front edge of trying to dig for answers, which I think is the coolest thing. But he's also kind of taken that to the approach to helping the golfer. So he's built this knowledge base into a way to make coaching much simpler for his students, which he couldn't do without that knowledge base. That's huge, and that's what he does. And he does it in his writing. His writing is simple. His coaching is simple. I've actually been out to see him when he was out at Bighorn years ago. But he's one of the, I think it's kind of cool. I usually kind of wade in a little bit later, so I just follow Stick as far as adopting new information. And Chuck is, old enough to be our fathers, but
now, boys, be nice to your dad now.
Methuselah on the other line.
Chuck has done so much for educating instructors like me through, Golf Machine, but also through Medicus, and he has really, I've been trying to think of words that are grand enough, but he has influenced thousands of golf teachers. That's undeniably the biggest compliment I think you can possibly get as a golf coach.
Yeah.
You know, he's in all this education. You know, it is a testament to, well, both guys, that despite their status in our game, Chuck is still out there learning, right? He's still out there learning more stuff. Tom, same situation. These guys are. It's one of those things that you can't say enough about these guys. They're already great at what they do, but they're out there, one, learning more, but two, absolutely giving back to the game through helping, you know, much younger guys like me, of course. Just kidding.
Well, and that's what it's all about. And Tom, we're getting close here, but I'll give you an opportunity. Well said, by the way, Jon. I'll give you a chance to talk about for a moment or two about Chuck and Jon.
Well, perfect. You know, alluding to what Jon said, I mean, when you talk about Chuck Evans, you talk about a gentleman whom everybody turns to for information, whom everybody looks to for the answers. And like Jon said, you know, when it's one thing to teach students, but when you teach teachers, you are somebody. And I tell you, there's only a few guys in our industry that I would say are teachers of teachers, and Chuck being one of them. And there's not very many. And so anybody that knows anything about Chuck knows that he also is one of the people that was on the forefront of writing and doing videos and doing Facebook posts and doing bulletin boards and all that stuff. You know, everybody now has videos on YouTube. Everybody now has things on Facebook and golf forums and all that kind of stuff. But Chuck was doing that long before it was in vogue. So, so you can't say enough good things about that. And as far as Jon's concerned, not only being one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and one of the most positive guys you'll ever meet, the most impressive thing about Jon is in the industry we have a lot of discussions of, you know, whether it be Top 100, whether it be the Open Forum, whether it be coaches camps and things like that. A lot of these very, very teacher-specific and very high-end teacher-specific conferences. There's one guy that's always asked to speak, and it's Jon. So, you know, that should tell you a lot about, you know, his knowledge and his dedication and what he means to the teachers of the world. So, you know, that's the one thing. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that I look forward to hearing what he has to say, because I know that I'm going to learn something. Well,
I have to admit, I'm glad I framed the question the way I did. I was a little bit concerned at first about how I was going to do that, because I was concerned I might have to get into some aggressive editing when I posed that question for you. So I'm glad I asked you guys what you like most about each other's approach. So thank you guys. Great answers, and let me just say, you know, one of the reasons, I've said this many times, but one of the reasons I do this particular show, Golf Talk Live, is really to, you know, I see the forums the same as you guys, and you know, there's lots of great discussions, sometimes not so great discussions, but I wanted to present a forum, if you will, to allow my fellow professionals an opportunity to come on and share, not only with the general audience, many students that may be listening in, but also many fellow professionals listening to the show as well. And I believe this is an opportunity to exchange and share some knowledge. And I've had actually many write back to me and reach out to me and say, you know, I was listening to such and such, you know, here a few weeks ago, and so-and-so said this, and so-and-so said that, and I really liked that, and it gave me pause to think. So that makes me feel good to know that the forum that I'm presenting here each Thursday night is not just reaching the general audience, but also reaching some of our fellow professionals. So, but I give thanks to you guys for coming on and sharing and being open and honest and candid, and humble as well. You guys have got some great accomplishments in your careers, and many more on the horizon, I'm sure. And Chuck, much like Moses with his staff, you're leading the rest of us along. That's not to say that you're old like Moses, but nevertheless, you certainly have been a pioneer in the golf profession, so we thank you for that. But thank you all for coming on tonight and sharing some thoughts with that. And John, just on a side note, let me know when the book is ready to be released, if it's not already. And I would love a copy. And if you want to come back on and talk a little and maybe plug the book a little bit, just by all means reach out and let me know. We'll set that up. But very quickly, guys, if you want to give out your particulars, anybody that maybe wants to reach out to you guys individually or personally, maybe needs some help with their golf game. John, I'll let you go first, then Chuck, and then Tom.
Well, Ted, let me say thank you very much for having us all three on again. Chuck and Tom, great to hang out with you guys again. I wish we could do this in person on a regular basis. You can reach me at jondunigan.com. That's the easiest way to do it. And I am in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which is a little outside of Philadelphia. And we do take non-members at White Manor Country Club. It's a great place. And I guess that's all I had to say about that. The book will be hopefully the next month ready. It's just about ready to go. We're just working on cover designs right now. And then I'll let the other guys have it. But thanks, Chuck and Tom, for all the nice words. I wish I was more eloquent, but you guys rock. I hope you know that I think that from the bottom of my heart.
You guys did. Perfect. Chuck, go ahead.
Yeah, Ted. So thanks again for having us on. I mean, I always enjoy being on with you. It's fun to talk, and especially hang with these guys. And you know, John, we used to do it every winter here in Phoenix, but you haven't been the snowbird lately. So you know,
all right,
we got to do that again this
year.
winter. Yeah, we got to let the girls let you go though. That's the big key. So you can get me at ChuckEvansGolf.com. Yeah, ChuckEvansGolf.com. You can find all my information there. And, you know, John, Tom, love you guys.
I appreciate it. If you're looking for me, Tom Stickney, you can find me at TomStickneyGolf.com or on Twitter at TomStickneyGolf. And as always, it's an honor and a pleasure to be on with two guys with stature such as Chuck and John. And Ted, thank you so very much. I appreciate it very much.
Well, not a problem. I'm glad you guys were able to come on, and we'll do this again. Maybe we'll do this again in a little bit, and have the three of you back on to celebrate John's release of his new book. And John, I'm serious. If you want at some point when you're ready, I'd love to have you come back on and plug your new book, and we can maybe try and help you sell a few copies, but which I'm sure you'll have no problem. But guys, as always, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please keep continuing doing the great work, and again, I look forward to having each of you back here on Golf Talk Live on a future show. Thank you very much, and God bless to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, gentlemen.
You too.
Hopefully see you all soon.
All right, that was my very special guests rounding out this evening, Chuck Evans, Jon Dunigan, and of course Tom Stickney. And I only got a moment here, so I want to make sure I get all of this out. But I want a special thanks to the Coach's Corner panel earlier, Clint Wright, Jon Decker, Brandon Stooksbury, and of course this very special guest panelist, Brett Cohen. Thanks, guys, for doing a great job in the panel discussion earlier. And again, for my special guests, Jon Dunigan, Chuck Evans, and Tom Stickney. Thanks, guys, for joining me here in Golf Talk Live. But I want to give a special thanks to all of the listeners out there worldwide for faithfully tuning into Golf Talk Live each and every week. And I certainly do get a great amount of enjoyment and pleasure of having a number of highly talented coaches and teaching professionals and authors and entrepreneurs stop by. And it's really through all of their participations that have really helped and their guest appearances have helped to make Golf Talk Live a first-class show. Very special thanks to Jonathan Laird from SouthCoastGolfGuide.com, Meredith Kirk out in the South Carolina area, Nikki and Tiffany Litherland, thank you, Mr. Bernie Pinder, OnTicGolf.com, Sean Kelly, owner of LinkedGolfers.com, and of course, Mr. Peter Doyle from Doyle Golf Solutions over in Ireland, just some of the sponsors and supporters of the show. Thank you, everybody, and I look forward to having all of you here next Thursday right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody, and have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.